Hey, everybody, Jeremy Sutton here. Welcome to the Daily Self-Publishing Podcast. I'm here with Belle Lockerby. She is a successful six-figure business owner who has grown her business on her own terms, and she's helped over 1,000 people do the very same thing. We're going to talk about her business and her newest book, Awkward is the New Brave, Wipeouts Happen, Get Back Up Anyway. Belle, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jeremy. It's awesome to be on.
Yes, amazing. So you're one of my many wonderful guests from Australia, and I think my second one from Perth, actually. So I'm super excited. I'm really getting an Australian connection here lately, seems like. So it's amazing. Can't wait to talk to you about your book, your business, and just everything you do. You were telling me some really cool stories, so I know we're going to laugh in this episode. But the very first thing I want to know is, why did you write a book in the first place?
Okay. It had, I guess you could say, it had been on my to-do list. I wanted to push myself. So like for as long as I can remember, I had wanted to write a book. And actually the very first book I kind of scribbled out was a children's book that is still unpublished. And that was more because like finding illustrators was just a bit of a barrier. So I'd kind of toyed with like the book title for a few years and went through different phases. I knew who I wanted to write for. But it took me a while to get the title. So the title started out as Awkward as the New Black, and then through editing became Awkward as the New Brave. And I guess it sums up a couple of things. One is my life, and two, it really is about encouraging other people to remember that we're all brave in our own way, and we can all, and change does feel awkward. Like when you're wanting to learn something or do something new, it does feel awkward, and you're not alone in that at all.
Yeah, new things are always awkward at first, and then we become hopefully experts or just a little better at them anyway.
Yeah, a little bit. A little bit is always good. I wouldn't say I'm an expert surfer yet, but I'm definitely better than when I first started.
Well, good. You're way better than me because I don't even know how to stand up on one. So, um, well, let's talk about your book and your business a little bit. Whatever order you want to go in on those two, but I just love to know, a little bit more about what you do and then what's your book about.
Yeah, sure. So they are very connected. Um, I left like my corporate life when I think my son was around about 2.5 years old, and I knew that the 9 to 5 lifestyle just didn't work for me and the kind of mum I wanted to be. So I left one side of Australia and moved to the other one where I live now, and bravely went all in on launching my business. And my goal was to help other mothers in particular find a way that they could do what they love around school hours. And during that process of running these programs, I'd run programs for around about 8 weeks during like school time so that women could get there and do some personal and professional development in learning how to launch and grow a business. There would always be questions that would come up around self-care and bravery and how to be their authentic selves. And in one of those programs, a young photographer, so she had worked as a geophysicist, and that option was not available after her daughter was born. And so she's a young photographer, and she says to me in the room, how am I supposed to be authentically me? Because she'd spent so much time feeling like she had to fit in a corporate box. And I totally Brene Browned her and said the words, there is great strength in choosing vulnerability. And inside, as soon as those words came out of my mouth, I went, you are just full of crap. You are not being brave and vulnerable in all areas of your life. And I wasn't. I was brave in business. I was brave in like parenting, I guess. But when it came to really putting myself out there, so I was a single mum, and I had my like business and mortgage and kids, and that was it. So I kind of woke up, and I talk about this in the book. I woke up in January 2018 crying in bed thinking, you have worked so hard to become strong and overcome different challenges in life. You don't know how to be soft, and you don't know how to be vulnerable. And like, what are you going to do about it? Are you actually going to be authentic and real and stand in those words that you said to Amanda as her name? Or are you just going to be a chicken? And it really convicted me. So then I reached out to a friend to see if she would be brave with me. She's quite good at the vulnerability side, and I was not. And I said to her, will you come and do some brave stuff with me? Some of it I had to do alone, and some she would come with me. So it included things like learning how to surf and then saying yes to things and letting my friends know that, hey, you think I'm really busy? Well, I actually need to not be really busy. So please make sure that I say yes and that I'm just not hiding behind work, and I really need to get out into life. And I also, so this is where some of the awkward stuff comes in, I also wanted my children to know what love looks like. I didn't want to end I do not want my destiny to be eaten by cats in an apartment or something and living all alone. That's not what I want. So it meant that I had to get back out into Dateland as well. And the last time I had been out there, it was, pre-Facebook days.
Yeah.
So it was a long time ago, right?
Right.
Yeah, a little different, a lot different. So it was just around working out how I was going to be brave and starting with the easy things first. So I didn't jump straight into the deep end with my bravery. I started with things that I was more comfortable tackling, and I would still kind of learn along the way that we tend to have internal chit chat that pops up when we're learning something new that says, "What are you even doing here? You shouldn't be doing this. What are you doing?" And for me, that came up with surfing. So I'm over 40 when I'm learning how to surf. And the surfers down at my beach are quite experienced. And there's me with my giant yellow board and battling this internal chit chat that says, "What do you think you're doing? You're a mum, you're carrying extra weight. Like, where is this even coming from?" And I just have to kind of quieten that inner voice and go, "You know what? I'm just going to try anyway." And I love it. And eventually it does become easier, like all things when we're learning, and the chit chat dissipates and you get to experience joy, which is really the goal at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love what you said about you didn't want your destiny to be eaten by cats in an apartment by yourself, because I have kids that are 6 and 8, and they, when I go do a podcast, they're like, "No, let me hold me," or something like that. But I want them to understand that I have to work and things happen, and most of that goes around them and they don't see it. But and I explain that to them, but I also want them to understand that it's okay to work hard, and but we're going to still have family time, and they're more important than a podcast or a book or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Our children do observe a lot, as we would have as well. And we're always kind of making those little decisions around, I want to be just like mum in this area, or I want to be like dad in this area. And then I know I've seen this look on my daughter's face and had a conversation with her about it, of her going, "When I grow up and become a parent, I'm not doing that." So it's understanding what we are working to avoid and what we might acquire in that process as well.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. And just growing into something and letting go of the voices in your head that say you're not good enough to do this, or you shouldn't even be attempting this,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's huge. I mean, we all have false beliefs and doubts and things like that we have to overcome.
Yeah. So it is very much around catching those thoughts or beliefs and challenging them, and then working out if you want to choose a different one or not, and really, being accountable for what you want to do. Yeah. So that's really, I guess, the big chunky theme in the book is being brave and being vulnerable with yourself to kind of keep moving. The interesting thing, though, is after you write a book with Awkward as the New Brave, you get people asking you to do like crazy things. So you've got to learn where your boundaries are as well around bravery. Doesn't mean you say yes to everything. Sometimes bravery is saying no to certain things as well, and being okay with that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to have some boundaries.
Yes, definitely. Definitely need to have some boundaries. And you do learn lessons that we can make assumptions about people based on all sorts of things. And when we're open and have conversations with them, you tend to discover that they have their own set of insecurities or fears as well. And that was one of the wonderful things about the book is, sorry if you can hear my dog walking on
it's
the
fine.
floor.
It's real life.
One of the wonderful things about the book is people started talking about their fears. And then I would start to hear these stories and going, I actually know someone else who has that fear. Like, you're not alone. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. So some of them were business related around sending invoices to customers if they'd left it too long. Some of them were around getting in the ocean. So I do have a friend who kind of put a hand up and said, I actually really want to learn how to swim. I don't know, and I'm scared of the water. Like, can you help me? So it was really good for opening up that conversation. And I mean, really, that's the power of our stories and the power of what we do is that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want the audience to connect a little bit more to you, Belle. So I want to read something on your Amazon product description. It says, her touching story powerfully weaves together the many life traumas and tragedies, the least of which is the state of her underwear drawer, while bringing hope, light, joy, and ultimately bravery to those willing to walk with her. So I got to know, what the heck is that about?
Okay. So sorry, I have two dogs who have decided to come and join in.
Yeah, join the podcast, guys.
In the book, not to Ted, stop it. In the book, not to give away everything, there is a character, for literary terms, named Baker, and he is my friend, and he's a physiotherapist, and he asked me lots of questions. So when I would go and honestly, he looks like the love child of Bradley Cooper and Chris Hemsworth. So you walk in there and you've got I don't know if anyone else experiences this, but when you're a parent, your underwear drawer just kind of gets really sad looking. Like it's not as sparkly as when you when you're in the early days of, that relationship phase.
Yes.
So walking into this place and hopping on, one of those tables, he's asking me all these big life questions, and I'm lying there in basically what I refer to as my mum undies, thinking, could this be any more awkward? Like, what on earth is going on? And why are you asking me questions about these things? And are you half flirting with me, or what is going on? Because he was a mutual friend of another friend of mine. So it was completely daunting. And then I would get into this little state if I went to go for follow-up, because as I learned to surf, my back started to give me a little bit of grief. So then I would get, torn in this internal chit-chat around, do you wear decent underwear, or do you just stick with the mum undies? Because if you choose the daggy ones, then that says, there's no interest there. But if you're wearing fancy ones, you might wonder what's going on. It's just incredibly embarrassing. And he's aware of all this conversation, so he's very much aware of the stories in the books, and
it's funny.
But yes, that is what that refers to.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'll tell you why that's funny to me, because I am also a physio. So I'm a physical therapist and have been for 12 years. And so I've had some awkward moments with mom undies and things like that myself. So it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
a lot of thought goes into our underwear selection. I can say that much.
Yeah, well, perfect. This will probably be the promo for this podcast. I'll just use this clip. Because I love that kind of stuff. Okay, awesome. Well, let's talk about your book. Let's dive into the writing, publishing, and that kind of thing. So, you talked about that. You did kind of do a book tour there in Australia. So, kind of talk to us about how that happened. And I know you said we talked about this, and I was the same way when I wrote my first book. I really didn't know what I was doing. And so you're just trying to figure things out. So how did you kind of figure things out and that sort of thing?
Oh, look, I think reaching out to your community and your network can be incredibly powerful. And I had some of the women who had done programs with me kind of say, I'm more than happy to organize an event for you. Like, I would love to do it. And part of my values, or like the altruism side, is like, oh no, you can't do it for nothing. So then let's associate it with a charity that we care about, and profits or proceeds can go that way instead. So that was a massive help in terms of having community get behind you and looking at who has got different skills and who's willing to be on your team. Talking as well. So I would do a lot of Facebook Lives, both in my personal friends page and over on my business page, giving updates on what was happening with the book and what the experiences were, probably around about was more frequent 4 weeks to the lead up of the publication date. So I would share what was happening behind the scenes and share like the cover and when it was coming out and everything, just to get some of the, the hype and support, which was amazing. It really was. And that kind of technique, that outreach, made the biggest difference, because even 6 months and 12 months prior, I was trying to find a publicist and I couldn't find one. My publishing consultant, who is absolutely amazing, had said to me, you need to build a list. And I'd be thinking, but it's a memoir, like, what am I going to do with a memoir? And then I figured it out. So we'll talk about the list building in a little bit. Yeah. So I figured it out after the book. So this is probably, a little tip for anyone who's already published and you think that it's done and dusted. It's not. Just dust it off. There's always a way to pivot something. So it took me a bit to figure it out. I think if you have people who are influencers within your network, reach out to them. So Jo, who is a character in the book, she has quite an Instagram following and she got behind it as well, which was great. I think she also likes the fact that her storyline is a good kind of companion within the book. So just, like really do an outreach to get people to support you.
Yeah.
And look at all the different ways.
I love that. Really, you said reach out to your network and your friends and people that are already can support you. And I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it probably doesn't hurt to have an influencer with a huge following as a character in your book.
No, that does not hurt either. So, and we have been friends for a long time, from when she had one follower. So now she's way beyond that number. But that does not hurt either. Don't underestimate an influencer.
That's exactly. I talked about. I have a friend that's launching a podcast tomorrow, and he and I talk about, because this podcast we're recording is right now. It's not live. I'm recording 60 episodes before I start it, because it's going to be a daily podcast, and I have to batch all that stuff. And anyway, just how it's a lot of work. And so I said, I want to look at and try to get some big influencers. And one of the things he said was, yeah, definitely, I understand, get some big influencers, but if you have people that say don't have 1 million followers on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, you're going to be able to build wider relationships and deeper relationships. Right. And they're going to be sharing things out more because it means more.
That's right.
And so, and that's exactly what you did. You reached out to your network and you said, hey, I have this book. And they're like, yeah, let's do this and this and this and this. Whereas if you reach out to, the top influencers in your niche, they may be willing to share a post, maybe, if you've given them some money at some point in your life, and maybe send out an email or something, but more than likely they're not going to.
Yeah. So absolutely, like your friends and people that you have been there for in the past will support you. And you are correct. The wide broadcast and network is really good. It really is. Absolutely. And I'm forever grateful for that, because I was lucky, fortunate, however you want to term it. My book hit not only bestseller in some categories, but it made bestseller in all Australian books. It made the top 10. And I had someone send me a screenshot and I'm like, oh, what? So that was pretty cool. And there is even like mindset stuff that comes into play when you are going through that publishing process. So I know Marie Forleo's book came out the same time my book came out. The upside of that is, in some strange algorithm fluke, my book is sitting right next to hers in like what's hot on the list.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's pretty cool. And then the same happened with Michelle Obama's book. So Michelle Obama was number 1 and I'm number 2. And I'm like, well,
wow. I hope you have a screenshot of that.
That's quite an ask.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't ever, like, for anyone who's thinking of publishing, don't, like, sometimes if someone has a big book coming out, it's a great way for you to get your book coming out at the same time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It sure is. And, it's crazy if you post about it on social media, write a blog post about it, and you mention Michelle Obama's book in your article, well, then it just bumps you up in SEO and amazing things like that. So I love it. Yeah. So you did that. You got your publishing consultant and things like that. Talk about, what was the publishing consultant's role in all of this, and how did you find them?
Okay. So this is like many, many years before I attempted to write my book, and it was just that idea that I wanted to write a book. And I happened to have a conversation with someone who had worked in publishing, and she gave me a real tough love conversation. So she's quite prominent in Australia, and somehow I ended up on a phone call with her. And she said, you need to be on Twitter. You've got you've got no Instagram following. You need to be on Twitter, blah, 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 blah. And if you want someone to help you, you need to speak to this person here, whose name is Linda. So I reached out to Linda and said, look, this is my idea, but it wasn't really fully formed, and stayed in contact with her on and off for probably 3 years, really. I'd touch in with her every so often, and she's incredibly gracious. So her role was around this, like the setup of the book. So getting everything organized for it to be an ebook and also to be a paperback, and looking at like the search terms and the long tail keywords and short tail, and handling the graphic design process, and all of the technical stuff that I did not have the bandwidth for at that point in time. She picked all of that up for me, which was just amazing.
Yeah, I love it. How important was it to have her in your corner?
Oh, like I've just joked with her yesterday that she's now become like a John Malkovich inside my head, who pops up every so often. It's like, no, I don't think you should do that. Like you should do this instead. Incredible, because she's experienced in this area. So I would never underestimate or undervalue the experience of someone who has been down that path before.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say that. So that's her thing. Publishing process is not my thing.
Right. Yeah, I think that's been the biggest thing for, so I help business owners write and self-publish books to grow their business. And I did it by myself early on, and I'm not trained in any of this. And so it's just things that I'd learned. And then I have a book formatter, cover designer who has over 10 years of experience. And I have an editor that has 10 years experience, and they know the business. And so they're like, no, we're not doing this. We got to have to do it this way. And it's invaluable to have someone like that in your corner.
Yeah.
So you can get it done without, but it's much better to have them.
Yes, absolutely. And the same with my editor. So I had to find an editor, and sometimes searching for the people that you need to support your book can take time, because it can feel like you're hitting brick wall after brick wall. So then once I would kind of, almost advocate for, once you find someone who is amazing to work with, keep them. Yeah. It's like, just, build a basement if you need to and sit them down there and feed them crackers, but just keep them.
Gonna edit that out, not really.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
I'm just kidding. I know. I love it. Put them in the basement, feed them crackers. I'm gonna do that with my team. It's gonna happen. Sorry guys if you're listening.
We're in lockdown anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah. Well, so I'm in Louisiana. They just opened. So Texas is fully open as of next week, and I think Mississippi is as well. So we may not be in lockdown, so I have to be careful what I do and say. So we talked about, we've hinted at this a couple of times now, Belle, list building with your book. And one of the things you said is, even if you've already written your book, it's not dead, it's not done. You can go back and do this. So I want you to preach to us right now. How do you build a list with your book?
All right, I'll get my preach on. Okay. These are the ways that have helped me in building my email list and my business with my book. So number one is looking for awards to enter. Is a great way to do that. So whether they're big or little, it gives you, I don't know if we're doing video.
Yeah, we're going to do video. It's going to be on YouTube. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So it gives you the opportunity to put nice stickers on your book that say finalist or winner of a particular category or genre or whatever it is, which is great in terms of, street cred and celebrating your book. So that's one. And you also get your book on other people's websites, which is awesome, right? To help drive traffic through to you.
Yes.
Number two is if you want to leverage it and go and do keynotes or workshops or anything based on your book, and even if it is like an author talk, that's another great way. And have copies of your book with you or a way to sell them. So I set up an online store just for my book, right? So that if I'm going somewhere, I don't have to have 100 copies in my car, but I can take orders on the spot and then have them distributed.
Yeah.
So that's the next one, is talking about it. The ones that I really love is there will be key themes and messages within your book. And this is where you can, give yourself permission to be creative in a different way. So a game changer for me from the list perspective was creating a quiz. Now, my quiz helps people work out their different way that they are brave.
Love it.
Okay. So it's like a bravery archetype quiz. It's free to do. Of course, like anything, you have to pop your email results in to get the email in to get the results. And then you kind of find out. And there's some recommendations in terms of who would be a good brave bestie for you so that you can start to build your bravery in different ways, right? That particular quiz that I created generated, and I'll send you a screenshot if you want to use it in any promo stuff, generated 1,000 leads within, I think, 48 hours.
What? I don't believe that.
It's true. It is true. It is true. I will send you the screenshot from when I launched it. The trick to making it happen is to make the results shareable so that someone can go, like how things pop up on Facebook with those fun quizzes where it's like, if I were a cat, I would be like a Siamese or whatever it is. But there's a little bit more strategy in this. So there is a tiny little piece of code that you can put on your results page that makes it shareable. So then it goes to Facebook or it goes to Pinterest or it goes to Twitter or wherever you want to send it, so that then your friends or your family or your network see your result and they can go click and take the quiz. And that's how it went really fast.
Wow.
Now, timing wise, Fridays are really good to launch out a quiz because people are done for the week, or if they're at work and it's Friday lunchtime, it's like, I'll just do a quiz and find out some stuff. Yes. So timing does play a role. So really think about what your audience might be doing at different points in the day or in the week or even within the year as to when they're more likely to be on their phones going, I need to do something. So that was a massive game changer. From there, for me, it was around launching into, I had like a little bravery membership program, which was the first way to work with me. I've now dismantled that and I've created something different. So now I have a Behaving Bravely course, which is related to the book, and that's around how you design your own year of being brave. So that's the next way to develop it, which will then lead into an accountability program or leads into that way. So really think about how else you can leverage your book. And if you end up having that, if you have published and you've got that chit chat happening in there, don't let that stop you. Like it's a living, breathing thing that once you've published it, it's an amazing asset that you've got that can be evergreen for you and for your business.
Yes.
So really that may be your next way to be brave, is to kind of revisit something, dust it off and go, okay, so what can I do with you now? And I know a good friend of, like, she's my best friend, she's talked to me about it, and she tells a story about Paul Coelho's book, which was, I think, The Alchemist, which the first time it was published, it was not successful, and eventually he kept trying with it and he became a bestseller. So just like keep going is probably my big thing. It's just keep going with it.
Yeah, I love that. I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago with a self-published author, very big name here in the United States, and I think in the world. I can't remember who it was, but he said, really, you have to commit 3 years to a book to make sure, and he said, I talk every time I'm on a podcast or TV or whatever, I say, this is my newest book. And he's like, I wrote it 3 years ago, but it's still my newest book because I haven't written a new one. And so I just thought, even just changing that wording to the book I wrote 3 years ago to no, here's my newest book, it just adds a little bit of excitement to it. And I love that little tidbit.
Yeah, I think that's amazing to think about. And I think sometimes you can feel, or like I experience this, where you feel like you're talking about the same thing over and over and over again. And you can kind of go, oh, no one, like, who wants to hear about my book now? So it's to fight through the mindset side of things and go, you know what, there are however many billion people in the world who have not heard about my book. Yes. Because if they had, they would have bought it and read it, like, surely.
That's right. Here's a little tip, for people listening is, when I first started, so I got my entrance into online business selling a $47 course it was called Creation 101, how to create your self-published book. And it was very low level. I did it all through Facebook. But I was doing it, and I was talking to a business coach, and he was like, yeah, you only posted about it, once today. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's enough. He's like, nobody saw that, right? I'm like, yeah. And he's like, post about it 2 or 3 times a day. Talk about it. I mean, even if you talk about your book in a live Facebook video every day, not everybody's going to see it. My mom, it may show that 300 people viewed my Facebook video, but my mom might have clicked on it, 10 times or 20 times or 30 times because she wants to support me. So maybe nobody saw it. So keep talking about it and keep posting about it. Yeah. I have so many follow-up questions about that 1,000 leads in 48 hours. So did you do that? Was that the quiz? So was that in the book itself, or how did you do that?
It will be shortly. It was not in the book itself. I created the quiz as a standalone piece and did an outreach. So it was like, I've had lots of people ask questions. So after publishing, I had lots of people ask questions around how they can be brave. So I thought I'd help you work out what your brave archetype is, because we're all brave in a different way. And that was one of the lessons from the book, is that we all can be brave in different areas. I'm quite good in the business side, was not so great on the relationship side. So it's about identifying what your bravery style is. And then when I put that quiz out there, because of that piece of code that allowed it to be shareable, so shareable is really important, it just took on a life of its own. And I was watching the quiz software that I used, and it just, I just looked at it and went, like, are you kidding me? And it was like amazing. So then it was around looking at what's the offer to go on. Now, if I had thought things through a little bit more, I would have had the back end built before I launched the quiz, but I didn't. I was just testing it out to see how it would go, and it went really well. So, like, my courses are generally more on the business side. So then having the course that's about bravery, or the membership that was about bravery bootcamp, was completely new. Now, one of the reasons I struggled with launching it all on bravery is at that point in time, Australia had its black summer bushfires. So for me to launch the course out with the quiz just did not feel appropriate, like when my country was literally on fire. And it was just that. And so sometimes the timing is a little bit off, but it doesn't mean you can't go back and revisit it at a later state.
Yeah, absolutely. That's huge to understand. So when you made the quiz, what software did you use to make the quiz with?
I used Bucket.io, which is, I think Ryan Levesque has that quiz software.
Yeah.
So I used Bucket.io to create the quiz. Even his book Ask is really good for anyone in business or who's an author, depending on whatever your genre is. because it's great around getting those discovery questions done. So whether you want to do a discovery quiz and then do more of like the funnel where you're looking at profiling people, which is what I did, was absolutely amazing. And once again, I have to say, Linda was the one who said to me when she's like, you need to give them something else to buy. I'm like, I don't, what? Like, it's my story. She actually said to me, go and read Ask by Ryan Levesque. All right.
Yes.
And do what the book says. I'm like, okay, Linda. So really good strategy for authors. And even if you're in, I would almost put it this way, even if you're writing a fiction book, you can still be creative. So it might be getting your audience to work out what character are you kind of thing, so that you can get them to kind of go, oh, like if I throw back to say Friends or whatever, I'm totally like Phoebe or something like that, so that you can just help them, take ownership and really build that relationship with the characters or the theme in your book. So be creative with it.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting that you said Phoebe for yourself right now, and if I was a psychologist, we would go into that a little bit more, but we won't.
Oh, look, I tried Rachel for ages, but I just can't get their hair to work the right way. So
yeah, I can't get my hair to work right either because I don't have any anymore. So you used Bucket.io. You made a quiz. You got 1,000 leads in 48 hours. Were you running ads to that quiz, or how did you post it?
No ads. I posted it out to my network. So once again, like, even if you're small and you've got support from your friends and family, post it that way. So my friend Jo, who's in the book, she shared the quiz to her network. Another friend of mine, Samantha in America, she shared the quiz to her network. So reach out and ask people who do have a list or an audience that's not yours, and get them to extend it out. And all it was them sharing and going, my profile is this. Like, so I think one of them is like, I'm a bucket lister, which is like, my bravery is around adventure and everything, or like, I'm about beliefs and my bravery is around like standing my truth. Or it was like, I'm a battle songstress. So it's like, I'm really good at building like a message, but I might actually struggle with converting that to money. Yeah. So it helped them to kind of go, this is, when it comes to being brave, this is who I am.
Yeah, I love it. Man, that's some good stuff. 1,000 leads in 48 hours organically, sharing on social media to networks. And so what did you use? Last question about technical stuff is how did you put the code in it to share it? Was that just something on your website, or?
No, so there's a little button, and I do have another quiz that I've created with a friend of mine, which we're about to release, which is called like working out what you're like, turning your procrastination into your power. Right. So that she'll probably tell me off for even like leaking this out. But you can Google the code. I will find it and send it to you so that you can use it in show notes. It's just like it's a free piece of code, and you can generate it so that basically it reshares a results page. It's that simple. So if you've got people going to your work, like your website, and that's where the results are, you can pop a little button in there that says share my results, and it's as simple as that.
That's the money right there. That's where the gold is made.
That's the money. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I love that. Oh my goodness. 1,000 leads in 48 hours. That's probably going to be I don't know. There's so many great names for this podcast that we can use. Amazing. So something I don't think I've asked in the last couple of podcasts, but I'll ask you, Belle, is, success leaves clues. So what would you say, or a couple of clues that you could say, if you want to write and self-publish a book, these are the things that really made the biggest impact on me?
Okay. One is mindset is a really big one. So understand when those self-doubts creep in, and you're not alone in self-doubt creeping in. So catch them, and remember that your differences are in your details. So if you ever find, because I almost got derailed by like a Brene Brown post where she talked about awkward and bravery in this post, and I had a freak out and said to Linda, I can't publish it. Everyone's going to think I'm a fraud. Like, they're just going to think I'm like the knockoff version of Brene. And she's like, no, calm down. It's like, if people are talking about those things, it's a good thing. So I'm like, okay.
Yes.
So I would say, 1, know what your triggers are with your mindset and have a management strategy for them. 2, have I call them brave besties, but have people in your corner who have skills that are different to yours that can help you move forward. All right. So that you can focus on the creation of your book and what you want to do. So make sure that, like, where you can, outsource what you can. And number 3 is, you don't need a massive budget to make a bestseller happen, right? So when it comes to the promoting it, use what you've got, like really use what you've got. So leverage your network, leverage your friends, leverage your family, and, be okay with being brave and asking for help if you need it.
Yeah. Ooh, I love it. Awkward is the new brave. Oh my goodness, Belle, thank you. Oh, this whole podcast is solid gold. If you listen to this podcast and don't want to go out and write your book, then you probably are not going to want to write a book. So this is amazing. Everything in here, you have dropped so much gold, just straight knowledge. I'm so thankful for you, Belle. If someone wants to come work with you, reach out to you and learn more about you, where can they go find you?
Yeah, sure. The easiest way to find me is on Facebook at facebook.com/Hey There Belle, or you can get me on my website at bellelockerby.com.
I love it. Hey There Belle. We're gonna go to there today. Belle, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. You have been one of my all-time favorite guests. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Awesome.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe. For more inspiring conversations like this one, I invite you to join my free Facebook group, Book Boss Tribe. If you're ready to write your book, I want to invite you to book a free call with me or sign up for my free course. You can get both of those at linktree/bookboss.